Welcome again. My story today is the richest family in our church, and this is one of my very favorite stories. The author is unknown, and it's really an Easter story, but I'm going to make believe it's a Christmas story because the principles are the same, but it's actually an Easter story. I'll never forget Easter, it says, but Christmas, 1946. I was 14, my little sister Ocie, 12, and the older sister Darlene was 16. We lived at home with our mother, and the four of us knew what it was to be without. My dad died 5 years before, leaving Mom and 7 school-aged kids to raise, and no money. By 1946, my older sisters were married, and my brothers had left home. A month before Christmas, the pastor of the church announced that a special holiday offering would be taken to help a poor family. He asked everyone to save and give sacrificially. When we got home, we talked about what we would do. We decided that to buy 50 pounds of potatoes and live on them for a month. This would allow us to save $20 on our grocery money for the offering. Then we thought that if we kept our electric lights turned out as much as possible and didn't listen to the radio, we'd save money on the month's electric bill. No television in those days. Darlene got as many house and yard cleaning jobs as possible, and both of us babysat for everyone we could. For 15 cents, we could buy enough cotton loops to make 3 potholders to sell for $1. I can remember those days. We made $20 on potholders. That month was one of the best of our lives. Every day we counted the money to see how much we'd saved. At night we'd sit at the dark and talk about the poor family who was going to enjoy having the money the church would give them. We had about 80 people in church, so we figured that whatever amount of money we had to give, the offering would surely be 20 times that much. After all, every week the pastor had reminded everyone to save for the sacrificial offering. The day before Easter, the day before Christmas, Ocie and I walked to the grocery store and got the manager to give us 3 crisp $20 bills and 1 $10 bill for all our change. We ran all the way home to show Mom and Darlene. That night we were so excited we could hardly sleep. We didn't care that we wouldn't have new clothes for Easter, Christmas. We had $70 for the sacrificial offering. We could hardly wait to go to church. On Sunday morning, rain was pouring. We didn't own an umbrella, and the church was over a mile from our home. But we didn't seem to matter how wet we got. Darlene had cardboard in her shoes to fill the holes, and I can remember those days. The cardboard came apart, and her feet got wet, but we sat in the church proudly. I heard some teenagers talking about the Smith girls not having on their old dresses. I looked at them in their new clothes, and I felt so rich. When the sacrificial offering was taken, we were sitting in the second row from the front. Mom put in the $10 bill, and each of us kids put in a $20 bill. We sang all the way home from church. At lunch, Mom had a surprise for us. She had bought a dozen eggs, and we had boiled Easter eggs. Anyhow, we had a good Christmas dinner with our fried potatoes. Late that afternoon, the minister drove up to the house in his car. Mom went out to the door, talked with him for a moment, and then came back with an envelope in her hand. We asked what it was, but she didn't say a word. She opened the envelope, and out fell a bunch of money. There were 3 crisp $20 bills, and 1 $10 bill, and 17 $1 bills. Mom put the money back in the envelope. We didn't talk but just sat there and stared at the floor. We had gone from feeling like millionaires to feeling poor. We kids had such a happy life that we felt sorry for anyone who didn't have our mom and our late dad for parents and a house full of brothers and sisters and other kids visiting constantly. We thought it was fun to share silverware and see whether we got the spoon or the fork that night. We had 2 knives that we passed around to whoever needed them. I knew we didn't have a lot of things that other people had, but I never thought we were poor. That Christmas Day, I found out we were. Easter Sunday. The minister had brought us the money for the poor family, so we must be poor. I didn't like being poor. I looked at my dress and worn out shoes and felt so ashamed that I didn't even want to go back to church. Everyone there probably already knew we were poor. I thought about school. I was in the 9th grade and at the top of the class of over 100 students. I wondered if the kids at school knew that we were poor. I decided that I should quit school since I had finished the 8th grade. That was all the law required in those days. We sat in silence for a long time. Then it got dark, so we went to bed. All that week we girls went to school and came home, and no one talked much. Finally, on Saturday, Mom asked us what we wanted to do with the money. What did poor people do with money? We didn't know. We'd never known we were poor. We didn't want to go to church on Sunday, but Mom said we had to. Although it was a sunny day, we didn't talk on the way. Mom started to sing, but no one joined in, and she sang only one verse. At church, we had a missionary speaker. He talked about how churches in Africa made buildings out of sun-dried bricks, but they needed money to buy roofs. He said $100 would put a roof on a church. The minister added, "Can't we all sacrifice to help these poor people?" That was in 1946. We looked at each other and smiled for the first time in a week. Mom reached into her purse, and pulled out the envelope. She passed it to Darlene. Darlene gave it to me, and I handed it to Osie. Osie put it in the offering. When the offering was counted, the minister announced that it was a little over $100. The missionary was excited. He hadn't expected such a large offering from such a small church. He said, "You must have some rich people in this church." Suddenly it struck us. We had given $87 of the little over $100. We were the rich family in the church. Hadn't the missionary said so? From that day on, I've never been poor again. And Jesus sat over against the treasury and beheld how the people cast money into the treasury, and many that were rich cast in much. And there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which made a farthing. And he called unto his disciples, and saith unto them, Verily I say unto you, that the poor widow hath cast more in than all they which have cast into the treasury. For all they did cast in of their abundance, but she of her want did cast in that she had, even all her living. Mark 12:14-44. God bless you.